American Top 40.
I'm Charlie Van Dyke, working my way from number 40 all the way to number 1 this week for Casey Kasem. At number 23 is a song by a duo that's actually a solo hit. Well, let me explain. It was recorded as a solo hit by George Michael of the duo WHAM. And that's how it was credited on the label when it was a huge hit in Europe a few months ago. But when WHAM was getting ready to release their current album in the USA, they decided to include George's solo hit as a WHAM recording. And now the song is on our charts, credited to WHAM featuring George Michael. That's because they didn't want to encourage rumors going around that George Michael was going solo. Now here's that song, up 14 notches. Careless Whisper. That's WHAM featuring George Michael at number 23, with a song that's already gone to number 1 in England, Holland, and Australia. The song, Careless Whisper. I'm Charlie Van Dyke for Casey Kasem, and the countdown continues.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
On American Top 40, counting them down, I'm Casey Kasem, and our countdown doesn't stop till we get to number 1. This next song became the top hit in Australia for the year 1984 and the number 1 song in America for the year 1985. The man who wrote it, English singer George Michael, says he wrote it when he was 16 years old and never thought much of the song. He wrote it on the bus on the way to his job as an usher at a local movie theater. Quote, "It's very naive when you listen to it, but it still stands up, even if it does sound a little immature in some ways. We made up for that, I think, by making sure the production and arrangement didn't sound simplistic." End of quote. Here it is, the biggest hit of 1985 and the 23rd biggest hit of the 1980s, Wham's Careless Whisper. Careless Whisper by Wham featuring George Michael. George, of course, split up with his partner Andrew Ridgeley and has since become a big solo star. Their hit from 1985 is the decade's 23rd top hit.
American Top 40.
Well, now we're up to the new number 1 song in the USA. It's by a star with some proven advice for aspiring songwriters. Never throw a song away. He saved a song he wrote with a friend in high school, and 4 years later, that song hit number 1. He told us, "We wrote it when we were both about 17. We were just writing anything we thought was good, with no particular direction. No idea there was going to be a record contract at the end of it. I just changed one line when I recorded it. Other than that, I left it as it was because it still stands up, even if it does sound a little immature in some ways." End of quote from George Michael. That song that he co-wrote with his former partner Andrew Ridgeley when they were 17 not only went on to hit number 1, it became the number 1 song of 1985.
So I'm never gonna dance again the way I danced with you.
The top song of 1985, Careless Whisper by Wham. A song George Michael co-wrote when he was 17 and saved. Proof you should hang on to what you write. You never know.
Casey's biggest hits.
9 years ago this week, back in 1985, one of the biggest hits in the USA was Careless Whisper, a number 1 song written by a 16-year-old usher in a movie theater to help pass the time. I'll have details and that big hit after this.
Casey's biggest hits.
9 years ago this week, back in 1985, one of the biggest hits in the USA was a number 1 song written by a 16-year-old usher in a movie theater to help pass the time. That was the job that young George Michael had in his hometown of Bushy, England, where he worked at the local cinema showing filmgoers to their seats. Most of the time was spent sitting in the lobby waiting for the movies to end, and so he'd fill in his time by writing song lyrics. One of those songs came to him as he was riding to work on the bus. He finished it that day in between films, and 9 years ago this week, it was one of the biggest hits in the USA. Here's George Michael and Wham with Careless Whisper.
Guilty feet have got no rhythm, though it's easy to pretend.
From 9 years ago, Wham and Careless Whisper. I'm Casey Kasem.
Casey's